Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is yet another unboxing. I got some more gifts from Jonathan, a very good friend of mine and longtime subscriber, and got another letter, and I also got a little treat that he wants me to try, some snowballs. So I will try some of those and show the gifts that he sent me, as well as share my thoughts on the letter that he sent in the package as well. But before I do that, I want to give a very special thanks to Jonathan for sending me these wonderful birthday gifts. And for those of you who have sent me anything in the past, I appreciate that generosity a lot as well. And for those of you who are just joining in or just supporting the channel, I really appreciate your support, whether it's a kind word or a like on a video or just subscribing. It really does mean a lot to me. So Jonathan sent me quite a little haul here. So to start off, let's start off with Akira, the 4K release of Akira. Now, I know that this was released in 4K, I think sometime last year, and the release had some issues. So the company, I think it's Funimation, they did another release with a corrected disc recently, and that is this one. And I checked this out before I recorded this video, and this transfer is tremendous. Like, this is the best the film has ever looked or sounded. It's awesome. It's amazing. Highly recommended if you are a fan of Akira. And I can't wait to watch the film again because the transfer is that stunning. Uh, Also, he sent me another anime in 4K, Robot Carnival. Now, I had this on Blu-ray thanks to Jonathan, but he decided to send me the 4K, and this also looks really good. And I haven't seen the film yet, so I'm really curious to check it out because I'm a big fan of animation, and that's also an anthology, which makes it even more intriguing to me. And speaking of anime, here we have Cowboy Bebop, the complete series. This is a show that, honestly, I've heard a lot about from friends of mine and relatives who are fans of anime. I just never really got around to seeing it. And this is also a good remaster on the Blu-ray. Looks really good, sounds good. Definitely looking forward to checking this out sometime. I think it'd be a good companion piece to Trigun. And he also sent me Executive Decision. I don't like this movie. This movie sucks. It's a waste of Kurt Russell, Steven Seagal, Halle Berry, John Leguizamo. I thought it was really. I definitely did not find it to be high flying excitement. Not anything that I would fasten my seatbelt for. But I'll take it for the collection. I love how it says Blu-ray edition on the bottom. Like, it's not obvious that it's a Blu-ray by the case that says Blu-ray. Why the hell did they have to differentiate that? Like, I don't understand that. That's stupid. Like, if it was a special edition or something, then I guess it would make sense to have a subtitle or something on the cover that shows that it's a special edition. But it's not. It's just a regular Blu-ray. This, though, is definitely a special edition. And I'm an enormous fan of this film. I think this film is awesome. And this is honestly one of my favorite, I would say one of my favorite steelbooks. Heavy Metal. This is the special collector's edition steelbook of Heavy Metal, which is in 4K. Yeah, the one negative is that because it's all silvery, it really showcases the fingerprints. But that's just what happens with steelbooks. Um, but yeah, this is a gorgeous looking steelbook, and this doesn't just have the first film; it also has the sequel, Heavy Metal 2000. And I checked it out. I checked out both of them. They look really good. The first film in particular looks the best it has ever looked. Has a good new Dolby Atmos track as well, and some new features. So I'm really looking forward to revisiting Heavy Metal and giving Heavy Metal 2000 another shot because I haven't seen that in forever. And he also sent me another 4K, The Sword and the Sorcerer. I never thought this was going to get a 4K release. I had hopes that it would get a Blu-ray release, but I'm really happy it did get a 4K release because I'm a big fan of this film. I think this is one of the more underrated sword and sorcery fantasy flicks of the 80s. And this is a fairly new release by Scream Factory. And checked it out. Didn't watch the entire thing, but I did take a look at it just to check the picture quality. It looks good. The sound is the best that they could get, but it's one of those things where they had an issue finding the soundtrack, the sound mix for some reason. And so they had to replace it with something else. So they had to cobble something together. So it definitely isn't Dolby Atmos or anything, but it still sounds fine. And then the last thing he sent me is An American Werewolf in London, the 4K box set from Arrow Video. I had the regular Blu-ray set, which is still a really good set and has a great transfer, but did not have the 4K, and now I have the 4K thanks to Jonathan. I'm a huge fan of this movie. This is one of my favorite horror films, my favorite werewolf movie, so it's awesome to have this in 4K for the collection. So, yeah, that is the... Sorry, this poster is getting in the way here. Gotta stick it back in here. Apologize. I don't know why. It's being difficult. Just get back in the dang case there. Frickin' poster. Come on. Alright. So yeah, that's American Werewolf in London. It has all the features from the previous Blu-ray release. It just has a new 4K restoration. Well, I mean, the restoration isn't necessarily new because I think it's like the same one that was on the Blu-ray, but it's in 4K now though, instead of just on regular Blu-ray. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm I'm at a loss for words when it comes to Jonathan's generosity. So I must be doing something right when it comes to my YouTube channel. If someone's willing to go out there and do something like that. I will definitely share my thoughts on some of these in the future for Jonathan, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. Now, I do have a ton of other titles that I got on Blu-ray, DVD, and 4K recently. Got quite a birthday haul, but I'm going to save that for another video. Now I'm going to take a sip of this Jack in the Box Mellow Yellow. And I'm going to try Snowball. Now, I don't remember being a super big fan of these the last time I tried these. I think I might have tried one when I was on the road with my dad in Oklahoma City. I went with him. Well, actually, I think it was not in Oklahoma City. That's when I went with him in Michigan, when I visited him for a little bit. And I went on the truck with him. So, I remember trying one of these then, but I don't remember being super enamored with it. Now, this is the Snowball. It's very pink. I think it's like a chocolate thing on the bottom. And it's got marshmallow or something. Let's try a Snowball. It's alright. I think it's got coconut on it, which I don't mind. Kind of messy. Yeah, it's like a marshmallow outside with coconut and like chocolate. Probably, a ton of preservatives and stuff, as usual. Not bad. That's alright. I wouldn't get it again, but it's not bad at all. I mean, it's definitely hitting the spot, 'cause I'm pretty hungry, so. I don't quite know why they're called snowballs. It would make more sense if they were white, which I think they might have been at one point. But the way that it is, have you ever seen pink snow? I haven't seen pink snow before, but it's fine. He also sent me Twinkies, but they got crushed in the box. I will say this: I've had Twinkies before. They're okay. I don't love Twinkies. I'm not like Sergeant Al Powell from Die Hard, who's a diehard fan of Twinkies. But they're alright. They're okay. I'm a bigger fan of Hostess cupcakes or Ding Dongs or the Hostess donuts. Specifically, the Crunch donuts. I really like the Crunch donuts. The double fudge donuts are okay too. And while I'm on the topic of food, I want to talk about Jack in the Box for a little bit. Jack in the Box to me is a little underrated. I think they have some good burgers and some good fries if you get the right order. Because sometimes you get somebody who screws up and doesn't cook it properly, or doesn't do it well enough, or gives you the wrong burger, which is really annoying. But when it's right on the money, like when it's done well, it's pretty good. It's pretty good fast food uh, burgers. We got some good burgers. Specifically, if I could talk, specifically, I would definitely recommend the Buttery Jack burgers. So the one that I really like is the bacon and Swiss Buttery Jack, which I'm not really a big fan of Swiss, but it just really works very well with that burger. And the regular buttery Jack is also good too. Those are the ones that I would recommend from Jack in the Box. I would stay away from the mini tacos because they will give you heartburn from hell. I mean, I have not had worse heartburn in my entire life. I mean, it's one of those things where they were fine initially, but like later on, especially at night, not okay. Not okay at all. Just major heartburn. But yeah, Jack in the Box. I think they were pretty underrated. They got some decent, crunchy big tacos. Um, there's some other stuff that they have, like their breakfast isn't too bad. I also really like their fries. They're like my number two favorite fry after Carl's Jr. So yeah, that's my thoughts, quick thoughts on Jack in the Box. And now we're gonna get to the letter. So Jonathan also sent me some other snacks. It was like these wrap snacks, Cardi B flavored. Um, they were like, I think it was like barbecue or something, but the bag exploded in the box, and that's why the Twinkies got smashed, and why I wasn't able to try those. So I don't have any of those to try. Um, I do have something over here though, and I did try it already, but I would actually recommend it if you have these. This is Hers Grill Mates Montreal Steak Potato Chips. So what these chips do is they use steak seasoning, and they actually taste pretty dang good. They taste close to an actual steak with like peppers and garlic, and they're good. Just have a couple here. Was waited to do this video because I'm hungry. Well, go on. Yeah, those are pretty good. Now, back to the letter. So it says, "Happy birthday." Thank you, Jonathan. Because my birthday was yesterday. I turned 33. Getting old. But it's not really... It's one of those things where it's kind of like in the eye of the beholder kind of thing. Like, it's all about your mindset. My brain is still relatively young because of my Asperger's, or my autism, because don't want to say Asperger's anymore. But my brain is not caught up with the rest of my body. So my brain still thinks that I'm in my 20s, but my body is like, no. like you're in your 30s, man, but my brain is like, no, I'm not. So people say things like you're young at heart, and I guess that's one advantage that I have, is that I can't help but be young at heart despite being in my 30s. Now, he mentioned some other stuff that he was thinking about sending me, which is just really awesome. Thinking about sending me some stuff in June. Talks about heavy metal in 4K. Talks about how great it looks. I definitely agree. Looks really good. Sounds great too. Mentions Robot Carnival. Talks about Akira. Talks about American Werewolf in London. Gives me some praise for the Bruce Willis marathon that I'm doing. Thank you. I'm having fun doing this. Bruce is a pretty consistent guy, at least in his prime. A lot of good to great films. Some films that aren't that amazing, but not a lot of films that I've like outright hated, other than like North. And I think, Color of Night I wasn't a big fan of either, and Sunset was kind of lame, but there's not a lot of Bruce Willis films that I've seen so far that I've like absolutely 100% despised. They've all been interesting or worth watching at least once in some capacity. Now, yeah, it does suck that he's retiring, but it is for the best, especially if things are really as bad as they appear for him. Talks about Moonlighting, talks about the Die Hard films. RoboCop does look amazing in 4K, because I have the Arrow Video steelbook of RoboCop, and speaking of that, I could probably grab that real quick. I'm gonna roll this chair back and grab it. Might as well just show it. Now, what I did is I took the Blu-ray, because I had the regular special edition Blu-ray of RoboCop, and what I did is I kept this hard case, and I replaced the Blu-ray with the steelbook 4K release, which is just fucking awesome. It's just badass. This is another one of my favorite steelbook releases from this year. Right up there with Heavy Metal. I mean, the film is just absolutely stunning and spectacular in 4K. I watched it recently, and it definitely did not disappoint. I thought it was really impressive. And the film still holds up brilliantly. Basic Instinct, he mentions that one. I also got that. The Studio Canal release. I'll show that in another video. It's a little bit out of the way. Actually, no, fuck it. It's right over here. I'll just grab it. So, yeah, I got the Studio Canal Basic Instinct release. This is from Amazon. It's region free despite it being a overseas release. I've heard people criticize the transfer. I don't get it. I think it looks great. The sound, yeah, it's a little quiet. It could be better. It doesn't really have a Dolby Atmos track. Not that I know of anyway. But it's got some exclusive new features on it. I haven't watched the documentary yet, but I've heard some good things about it. Watch that again as well, and I love Basic Instinct. Basic Instinct to me is like the best erotic thriller. Like, it's excellent. It's sufficiently sexy as well as thrilling. Huge fan of that one. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, you can just look up my review of the film. You can just go to my channel, go to the search, and just type in Basic Instinct, and you should be able to find it. Then Jonathan talks about Hatching and Black Phone, talks about how they could be promising. Yeah, they could be. The Black Phone looks intriguing. Definitely looks like it has some potential. I know it's the next film that Scott Derrickson is directing. Apparently he's really passionate about it, so that's a good sign. I don't know if I'll see it in the theater, but I'll definitely check it out sometime. Then Hatching looks like a movie that I'm not going to really know what the fuck is going on throughout the running time, but it looks like a film that would be worth watching just for the practical effects and for the spectacle of it, but not necessarily for the characters of the plot. It just looks like your typical sort of foreign indie horror film that has some interesting visuals but lacks in other areas. But I mean, it could be a huge surprise and it could be really good, but I don't know. I have my doubts, but I'll still give it a shot sometime. Talks about how X was disappointing. And yeah, he does give it some praise for doing something different, and I agree. I do appreciate the fact that it did try to be its own thing and not just another remake or reboot or sequel or whatever, but it still wasn't that great, at least for me. And he talks about some other reviews that he would like me. Well, he's not saying he would like me to do them, but he is looking forward to them because there are a bunch of reviews that I'm going to do sometime in the future. More Bruce Willis films, some videos on Batman the Animated Series, a commentary on RoboCop 2, etc., etc. Talks about some stuff that he would like me to do maybe in June, some fantasy films, which I'll definitely probably put down on the list because he requested them on PayPal. So I'll definitely get around to doing some fantasy films in June. And just talking about a few other things, like maybe like Candyman films. That would be a good time to do that because the 4K comes out in June. Mentioned some Jean-Claude Van Damme stuff. Oh, we also talked about the trailer for Jurassic Park Dominion or Jurassic World Dominion. Speaking of that, I saw the new trailer and I thought it looked pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it looked like a fun movie. Could suck, but it still looked like a fun time. Then he talks about some other stuff that maybe I could consider doing reviews of. Talks about whether or not Pulp Fiction is like one of my favorite films of 1994. Yeah, I definitely would say that it's one of my personal favorite films of that year. Definitely. In fact, 94 is an interesting year that I actually would like to do maybe a video or a live stream on sometime. Just go through the year and just talk about some of the stuff because there's just a lot of interesting films from that year. Like there's a lot of classics, but then there's a lot of stuff that is just infamously terrible. So it's like one of those years that has a very interesting swing to it, where you have a lot of really high quality, well regarded films, but then you have a lot of just absolute garbage. uh, and more so than some other years. So it's a really interesting year in that regard. Um, did I know Sergeant Reed from RoboCop is the Doctor in the Two-Face episode of Batman? No, I did not know that Robert Duquesne was the voice of the Doctor in the Two-Face two-parter, and I watched that fairly recently. That's pretty cool. Um, talks about 12 Monkeys. Asks if it's one of my favorite films in 1995. I'd have to look at a list of 1995 films. It'd probably be on a best of list, but fairly low. It's not that I don't like the film. I actually do like it. It's just that there are other films from that year that I like more than 12 Monkeys. And then he's asking me how many stars I would give certain films. Uh, Mortal Engines. I really like that. I did. It's flawed, but I don't know. I think like 3.5 is probably the most fair rating I can give it. Brightburn, 2, Morbius, fuck that movie. A half a star. Yeah, I hated it that much. I did not like that film one bit. Blind Date with Bruce Willis, 3 stars. Sunset, 2. In Country, 3.5. Bonfire of the Vanities, 2 stars. Hudson Hawk, 4. I know some people might think I'm crazy for doing that, but that's how I feel about Hudson Hawk. Last Boy Scout, 4.5. X, 2. Striking Distance, 3 stars. Bucky Larson, 1.5. North, 1 star. And yeah, I did feel that Debbie Harry was good looking in the Tales from the Dark Side movie, as well as Julianne Moore and Ray Don Chong. You promised! You promised you wouldn't tell! But anyway, I don't really know what else to say. Except, once again, thanks to Jonathan for sending me these gifts. And just stay tuned for more content. I got some more Bruce Willis stuff. Some more paid requests. The next Bruce Willis film on the docket is Pulp Fiction. And also still going to do that live stream later tonight. I'm going to go to a dinner with my family. So I'm probably looking at the live stream being around like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 Pacific time. So somewhere around there. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you later. See ya.